Today, I have a story for you guys about one of my classmates who was so hungry that he decided to eat our class pet as a snack. I know it sounds insane, but trust me, you just gotta hear this. Like the video and you'll be able to fly. Yeah, that's right, we're handing out superpowers now. Also subscribe, we're trying to hit 1 trillion subscribers. Anyways, with that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So this absolutely insane story happened my freshman year at high school. Now, my school was really small. I think I graduated with around 70 people. So each of our classes only consisted of like 10 to 15 students. And because of that, we all knew each other very well. Pretty much every student knew everybody's first and last name. And also probably all the people in the grade above us and below us at the time too. We knew all of their names. If any of you guys go to a small school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's more of a smaller community and just everybody knows each other. Now, if you go to a big school where you have like hundreds of students, I know that you don't even know the majority, like probably 3/4 of your grade's names. Like I've talked to people who went to big schools like that, and they would say that they haven't even met most of their classmates, which is just insane to me because, like I said, I grew up in such a tiny school. Anyways, point is, everyone knew each other very well. So we had this one classmate, and for the sake of the story, we're gonna call him Jake. Now, I'm not trying to be rude or like super judgmental or whatever, but Jake was just really, really weird. For starters, he had this weird fascination with bugs, and for a period of time, people even called him the bug kid. See, during recess, he would find the weirdest bugs and be playing with them, and then after recess was over, he would bring the bugs inside and have them during class. The teachers would always get mad at him for bringing them into class, and they would tell him that he needs to get rid of it, but he would often ignore them or just pretend like he didn't hear the teacher talking to him, and often the teachers just couldn't be bothered, so they just let it go. But this dude would like pet the bugs and like whisper to them and stuff. It was really weird. One day he brought in this bug and he was playing with it, talking to it, and then all of a sudden, I guess the bug said something wrong to him because he started getting really angry and he was like shouting at this bug that he was holding. Then he like threw it on the ground and stomped on it a bunch of times, and he just seemed really, really annoyed and angry. I mean, that got him sent to detention that day, but more oftenly, his whole bug ordeal was more just like weird. There weren't many other interactions similar to that. But then some other weird things to note. Once again, I'm not being judgmental. It's just like, I gotta build this dude's character, all right? You guys just need to understand like who this person was. And anyways, at the end of the day, this dude ends up eating our class pet. So like, I think it's okay. So during lunch, he would always pack his food. And though he wouldn't sit at a lunch table all by himself, he sat at this lunch table, but all the chairs around him were empty. So he was like in his own little corner at this lunch table. But anyways, from what people seen, he ate the same thing pretty much every day from kindergarten all the way up to 9th grade. This dude had the same meal every single day practically for his whole entire life. Now though, yes, that's like a little weird. It's not that crazy, but what he would eat was a little insane. His lunch consisted of 1 sandwich. It was 2 pieces of white bread with no crust on it, and then a few slices of American cheese. So it was basically just a cold grilled cheese. So he would have that, and then also just 1 singular chicken nugget, the like frozen kind, only it was still frozen solid. After he ate his cheese sandwich, he would spend the rest of lunch just sitting there like chewing on this frozen chicken nugget. No, remember, this wasn't just a one-off thing. This was something that he did every single day at school lunch. Like, we all grew up together. Most of us knew each other since kindergarten. Like I said, at the time of the story, we were in 9th grade, and without fail, every single day that he was at school lunch, this is what he was doing, this is what he was eating. Like, everyone in that school knew exactly what Jake ate for lunch, and they knew exactly how he ate it. Because, like I said, we all grew up with each other, and this dude was eating and doing the exact same thing at lunch every single day. So we just saw it. Anyways, there was a bunch of other tiny, weirder things that Jake would do. He'd ask the teacher some weird, unsettling questions. He would randomly ask you, like, if you knew about something extremely obscure, stuff that I honestly think he was making up. But yeah, anyways, point is, this kid was extremely odd. Now, with that, of course, I wasn't mean to the kid, and most people weren't mean to the kid. I mean, sometimes people would talk about him behind his back, but for the most part, they didn't say stuff directly to him, which was good, because that is the type of kid who would usually get bullied in school. But honestly, I just don't think you'd want to bully this kid. So that's who Jake is. Now, that's a very rough idea, of course. There's years and years of details that you guys would have to understand, but I mean, at the very least, you get the gist of things. Anyways, Jake at the time was in my science class. Now, our science class teacher was pretty cool. They weren't like super strict or anything, and they'd often let us like watch science movies and stuff for our class day. They'd let us use our textbooks for tests. Like, it was a good class, right? It wasn't one of those super stressful ones. It was an easy class. Teacher was cool, like I said. And yet one day the teacher decided that for a little little activity for the whole class that they were going to get a class pet. The idea was that she could assign different students to take care of it different days, make sure that it was fed. Mind you, this class was our first class of the day, so they could make it that every morning someone had to feed the animal. Also, this was science class and we were learning about biology, so it was a good exercise to raise an animal and see its environment and stuff like that. So the teacher announced this at the end of one of our classes, and the next day we all come into class, and once class is started, our teacher shows us our new pet. She pulls the cover that she has over the tank off, and it is revealed that the class now has a pet goldfish. Now, this wasn't just a little goldfish, this was one of those big goldfish. Like, it was the size of our teacher's hand. This thing was huge. The class had a vote on what to name the fish, and the vote ended with a very original name for a fish, Fishy. So now, with Fishy the fish being in our classroom, the teacher was going to now assign people for different days to make sure it was fed, and there was a little chart that had to be followed. Now, if someone wasn't there for whatever day, the teacher would take a volunteer and have them go feed it instead. Also, if you were the fish feeder that day, your duty was to make sure that the tank was all clean and report if there were any problems, like if the filter wasn't running. Anyways, everyone in the class was given a turn, each getting their own feeding day where they got to feed the fish. One day, it was Jake's turn to feed the fish. Now, ever since the day we got the fish, Jake would spend a lot of time in class staring at it, which, I mean, some other people would watch the fish every now and then and like zone out, but Jake was pretty fixated on this fish. Like, he was staring at it. It was quite unsettling, to be honest. But yeah, it was the morning of the day that Jake was supposed to be feeding the fish and taking care of it and all of that. However, as time went on, Jake was still not there. It was getting pretty close to the first bell of the day, and like I said, Jake wasn't there yet, so the teacher asked for a volunteer to do the fish duties. Just as she was about to pick somebody, Jake walked into the classroom. But something seemed off to everybody. See, like I said, we all knew each other very well, and we can tell whenever something was wrong or like off, and everyone knew that something wasn't right. Jake had this big smirk on his face whenever usually he just have like a plain stare, but he looked like he had some sort of plan or he was like plotting something. And I was whispering to my friend sitting next to me, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, dude, this is weird. And that's whenever Jake took his seat. Now, right as he sat down, mind you, he rarely talked, he immediately stands up and goes, "Oh, it's my fish day, isn't it?" Ha 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 ha. At this point, this was like really weird. I mean, everyone knew that Jake was like a weird kid, but this was extremely outlandish behavior from him. Like, we haven't seen anything like it. Anyways, Jake gets up and walks over to where the fish food is. And at this point, everybody's eyes are on him, because like I said, everybody could tell that something here was off. And at that point, Jake was like, "What's everyone looking at?" Now, if everything before wasn't weird, this was extremely weird, because he would never confront people. He wasn't that type of person, but today he just seemed to not care whatsoever. At that point, most people moved their eyes off of him and pretended as if they were never looking at him in the first place. You know, just looking around all cluelessly like, what are you talking about, Jake? But still, some people were just so intrigued that they just couldn't stop watching, me included. And now this is at the point where Jake slams down the fish food, which regains everybody's attention. And with a big smile on his face, he goes, "Well, I hope you guys all enjoy this show, because it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before." He then opens up the top of the tank, grabs this gigantic goldfish out of the tank, and before anybody could react to anything, he somehow fits the whole entire thing in his mouth and just swallows it whole. The teacher at this point sprung out of their chair and started running towards him to try to put a stop to this, but it was too late. Fishy, the goldfish, was gone. Well, honestly, he might not have been gone quite yet. He was just swimming in a different environment, an environment known as Jake's stomach. I mean, you guys could only imagine how shocked everyone in the classroom was. This was by far the craziest thing any of us had ever seen in our entire lives. I mean, not only did we just watch this guy eat our class pet, I mean, our class pet was huge. There was no way he could have just done what he did and swallow it whole like that. Craziest part is that Jake wasn't even fazed by this. After he swallowed it, he let out a big belch, and he like rubbed his stomach and patted it and said that it was delicious. The teacher was in absolute disbelief, and I mean, so was the whole entire classroom, but the teacher started yelling at Jake, saying like there's no way he just did that, and that he was gonna be in all kinds of trouble. And Jake at this point was just laughing, asking the class if they enjoyed the show, to which nobody was responding, because like, what the hell, dude? That was like our pet, you know? Nobody thought it was cool or funny or whatever. I seriously don't know like what his motive was for this. Maybe he thought he can get some good attention on him, but I mean, if anything, this was the complete opposite of good attention. Everyone was honestly kind of mad at him and also extremely disgusted. Our teacher called the principal, who instructed her to send him to the nurse office first and then to his office. Nobody to this day knows what happened happened at the nurse's office. I mean, you could only imagine what she thought about that. Imagine being a school nurse where all you do is send home kids who claim that they're sick and give people who just broke their neck a pack of ice to put on their leg. Like, imagine that's your job, right? And someone walks in and they're like, I just swallowed the pet goldfish. Like, what? I think that for me would be the end of my career as a school nurse if I was one. Also, imagine being the teacher and you like do this nice thing for your class. You bring in a pet for the class and you have them take care of it. It's like a nice little activity that you have going on for the class. And then, yeah, it just gets eaten whole. Like, I couldn't even imagine, bro. I mean, even just being there and seeing him eat the class pet. I mean, it's absolutely insane stuff. It sounds like one of the things that you would see on a book from the book fair. The kid who swallowed a fish, who swallowed a fly. Like, what? Anyways, this actually ended up getting Jake expelled from the school. Not even just suspended, like straight up kicked out of the school. And he was never seen by any of us again. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I was really curious, like what happened with him after that day? Like, did he have to go to the hospital to get the fish removed? Did like nature take its place? And like, what happened? I mean, we know that he's still alive, right? Like, he's still on Snapchat and he'll post some weird stuff sometimes and people will see it. So he survived eating this gigantic goldfish, but like, how? Like, there's no way the dude didn't just choke and die right there. He straight up ate it, swallowed it, and I guess it came out the other end. Needless to say, though, we went the rest of the school year without any other class pets. I'm guessing that was probably the end of class pets for our teacher. Hashtag RIP Fishy. Comment it below, guys. Also, if you like listening to my stories, check it out on Spotify. It's, of course, linked below.